supposed to be a certain protocol for people to check in?
No, and I begin with me, and then he can speak, and they can speak for the other generation. But I'm never, you know what I mean? We don't have time for no sucker shit like that.
Looks like 50 Cent just dropped a major bombshell, and this one's shaking the entire scene. He's hinting that the drama with Jay Prince and Supreme McGriff's crew runs way deeper than anyone could have ever imagined. According to what he's putting out there, this isn't just rap beef anymore. This could be something way darker. At first, everyone thought it was the usual ego battle, 50 refusing to check in and Jay Prince taking it as a sign of disrespect. But now, 50 is straight up saying there was a legit plot to take him out, and he's actually naming names. The wildest part? He's saying Supreme's own son might have been involved. That's not something you just throw out lightly. And it doesn't even stop there. Word is, Rick Ross might be mixed up in this too, allegedly linking with 50's biggest enemies just to stir the pot even more. With 50 exposing all these secret connections between Jay Prince, Supreme's legacy, and all the shady behind-the-scenes moves, the picture is starting to look real scary. Could this be why 50 suddenly pulled back from Houston? Was there really a setup brewing behind closed doors? Let's lay it all out because this mess runs deep.
Know the reason, but what is the reason why you moved to Houston?
Well, look, first of all, like every time I've experienced Houston, like when I was out here, I ran into random acts of kindness. Like the people have been good to me. You know what I'm saying? So it's one of the places that I'm like, man, or maybe Houston, like Houston or Miami popped into my head. Mm-hmm.
It all started in Houston, a city Jay Prince controls like it's his personal kingdom. When artists slide through, they're expected to check in. Sure, they call it a sign of respect, but a lot of folks see it differently, more like a straight-up shakedown, especially when you think about the people who still end up hurt even after playing by the rules. When 50 Cent touched down in Houston, Jay Prince expected him to follow the script, but 50 wasn't having it at all.
They said 58%. I said, what? You my partner? The IRS is my partner now? I don't know. All you get is a Yankee hat? I'm going to Houston.
He flat out refused to check in and made it crystal clear he didn't owe anybody a single thing. He's got his own security, his own millions, and he wasn't about to follow street codes he didn't believe in. To Jay Prince, that was the biggest slap in the face you could imagine. And 50 wasn't just passing through town either. He was making Houston his home. At the time, he even tweeted, "I love New York, but I live in Houston now." And most people chalked it up to tax reasons. That made sense. New York taxes are brutal, and 50's all about his business. But behind the scenes, there was way more to it. 50 had huge plans lined up: a $20 million G-Unit film studio, alcohol brand expansions, deals tied to schools and the community. He was planting roots like a true boss. But here's the twist. He was setting all this up right in Jay Prince's territory, and he did it with no check-in, no permission, and no respect to the so-called gatekeepers. That was guaranteed to ruffle feathers. The whispers started almost instantly. People were saying doors were being quietly shut on 50, that moves he tried to make were getting blocked, and that certain crews were watching his every step, just waiting for him to slip up. But instead of folding, 50 doubled down. In his eyes, all that check-in talk was nothing but a fancy way to say extortion. And he wasn't about to bend to it for anyone. And honestly, 50 might have a real point. Even the ones who played by the check-in rules still ended up in tragic situations. Look at what happened to Takeoff. He checked in and still lost his life. Jacob the jeweler, he got pressed. XXXTentacion tried to keep a low profile and still got hit. So from 50's perspective, why hand over money and power for a so-called protection that clearly doesn't even work? He saw straight through it. It was fake security. And when you've been through what 50 has, you don't scare easy. But then, out of nowhere, the vibe shifted. 50 quietly pulled out of Houston, shut down the entire film studio project, and moved everything to Shreveport, Louisiana. He didn't make a big announcement, but the move said everything. People were left scratching their heads. This was the same city that once gave him a literal key to the streets. So why bounce now? The answer came in one single line during an interview. "Houston didn't embrace me the way I expected." That one sentence said it all. Something changed, and 50 clearly didn't feel safe anymore. Here's the crazy part. While all of this was happening, 50 was still being honored publicly. He was the Grand Marshal at the city's Thanksgiving parade.
Opportunity for me to start a new relationship with Houston. I'm excited about it. I had an opportunity. I had a lot of fun things for the kids. I think that they're really going to get a chance to appreciate and enjoy it. And
November 24th was officially declared 50 Cent Day in Houston. The mayor was showing him love, and the community was applauding.
So today, we have the honor of saying to him, he's our 2022 Grand Marshal. Give it up to Curtis 50 Jackson.
But one man was not clapping, Jay Prince. Sources behind the scenes said he was furious. From his point of view, 50 was walking through his city with too much power, too much spotlight, and no check-in. At that point, it wasn't even about clout anymore. It was about control. And 50, he was taking it.
You know, I have the resilience to go against anybody. Like, there's nobody that's too ill. Those are the guys that you would choose not to go against at that point. It's in the environment, they got...
But just when things seemed to settle, another name entered the picture, Supreme McGriff. If you know 50's history, then you know this is as serious as it gets. Back in the early 2000s, 50 Cent was shot 9 times and barely lived to tell the story. A lot of people believe Supreme McGriff's crew had something to do with that hit. The reason? 50 had just dropped a track called Ghetto Quran, where he actually named names and spilled details about major street legends in Queens. And Supreme was one of the names mentioned.
It's for you, man. You the only one in Miami with that, baby.
You know to see what it is.
You know the vibes?
You see what it is.
Yeah.
Warming up, nigga, 2024.
In the streets, that wasn't just a song, it was seen as straight up snitching. Supreme wasn't having it, and not long after, 50 was ambushed. But he survived. He came back stronger, rose to fame, and turned that near-death experience into the backbone of his entire brand. Meanwhile, Supreme's life went in the opposite direction. He ended up with a life sentence in prison. But through it all, Supreme never flipped. He kept his mouth shut, and that silence earned him major respect from a lot of people in the game. While Supreme was locked up, 50 never let that story fade. He used it in interviews, in his bars, and even in his movies, turning all that trauma into a money-making machine. But Supreme? He never forgot how it all started. Then enters Irv Gotti, another key player in this tangled mess. Irv wasn't just close with Supreme, they were basically family. He even helped fund Supreme's legal battles when things got real. Irv stood by him the whole way. No snitching, no turning his back. That kind of loyalty meant everything to Supreme. But for 50, that connection made Irv a target. He went after Irv and crushed his label, Murder Inc., leaving the whole crew in ruins. 50 Cent had already taken down Ja Rule and left Murder Inc. in the dust. But even after Irv Gotti passed away, he didn't ease up. When news broke that Irv had died from a stroke, 50 still kept the shade going online. He posted a photo of himself smoking hookah next to a fake gravestone with the caption, "I'm smoking on Dat Gotti pack, God bless him, LOL." The day before, when Irv was first hospitalized from the stroke, 50 had written, "Damn, I wanted him to see my new shows." That didn't sit well with Supreme McGriff's son, McGriff Jr. He went off on Instagram, blasting 50 with, "If I said I was smoking on your mother and your grandfather pack, people would be telling me I'm wrong, right?" He called 50 a straight clown, adding, "Y'all really love this clown. Well, I'm gonna always give the same energy. Nobody can tell me nothing." To Supreme, Irv was like family. Disrespecting Irv was like spitting on Supreme's name, and McGriff Jr. wasn't going to let that slide. But then, things took a darker turn. 50 started dropping cryptic clues online, posting about snakes in the grass, about enemies plotting in silence, and making it clear he wasn't blind to what was happening around him. Then came the big reveal. 50 allegedly leaked info that pointed to secret conversations between Jay Prince's crew and Supreme's son, and the whispers were ugly. Word was, there were talks about setting him up, pressuring him, or even worse, getting him out of the way completely. And 50 didn't just quietly hold on to this info. He made sure the world saw it. He started openly trolling Jay Prince, calling him out and practically daring him to make a move. 50 wasn't backing down one bit, and now the tension was boiling hotter than ever. And just when it seemed like things couldn't get any hotter, Rick Ross stepped into the picture. And this took the drama to a whole new level. Ross and 50 Cent have been beefing for years. Lawsuits, family drama, nonstop shots back and forth. They don't mess with each other, period. But now, Ross was spotted hanging with people tied to Supreme McGriff's camp. To most folks, that might look random, but to 50, that looked like an alliance. Ross linking up with the son of the man who once tried to end him, that was a bold move. and 50 took it as a direct message. But here's where it turns really wild. Word on the street is that this meetup wasn't just about hanging out. Allegedly, this link-up was part of a bigger play. Some insiders are whispering it was connected to a setup meant to take 50 out completely. Reports say Supreme McGriff Jr. is done playing nice, especially after 50 kept throwing shots at Irv Gotti online, even after his passing. And now, with Jay Prince's name mixed into the equation, the stakes have shot through the roof. Jay Prince isn't just angry about 50 refusing to check in. The word is, he's trying to make an example out of him. If 50 can get away with disrespecting the so-called rules, then other rappers might start ignoring the check-in culture too. And that's a power shift Jay Prince reportedly won't allow. 50 might need to keep his eyes open because when you really dig into Jay Prince's history, it's clear just how deep his roots go. He's not just a music executive. This is a man who allegedly came up with serious street muscle and major connections. Back in the late 80s, his name was already popping up in federal files. Rumor has it, he had roots straight from Mexico, flowing heavy product into Texas, Louisiana, and even as far as Chicago. And now, with all these forces swirling together, 50 Cent might be facing one of the most dangerous situations of his entire career. This wasn't small-time business, this was global-level organized power. Around that same time, Jay Prince allegedly formed ties with none other than Larry Hoover, the founder of the Gangster Disciples. Once that connection locked in, everything shifted. Houston to the Midwest suddenly had a full pipeline moving, and Jay Prince was right at the center of it all.
This was the idea of my father, seeing that it was connections to Drake and Kanye, and that they were such iconic figures, and with them going through things.
Then, out of nowhere, Rap-A-Lot Records popped up. On the surface, it looked like a label built to showcase Houston's talent. But word on the street, it was way more than just music. Many believed it was actually a front, a perfect way to wash massive amounts of street money clean. The feds weren't asleep, though. By 1988, the DEA had launched a full-on investigation into Jay Prince and Rap-A-Lot. They were tracking shipments, bugging phones, putting houses under surveillance, flipping drivers, and applying pressure to anyone even loosely connected. They built what looked like a rock-solid case. But then, just as it seemed like they were about to move in, the entire thing disappeared. By the late 90s, the U.S. Attorney General dropped the case completely. No charges, no courtroom drama, no headlines, just pure silence. And moves like that, they don't happen by accident. That kind of protection only comes when you've got some serious pull behind you. Fast forward to today, and now 50 Cent might be stepping on toes that have been dangerous for decades. So what do you think? Is 50 just being paranoid, or is he sounding the alarm before something really goes down? Could there actually be a setup forming behind closed doors? Or is this all just a brutal power game playing out in the open? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We need to hear where you stand on this. And if you're locked in with us, make sure you smash that like button, hit subscribe, and turn on your notifications. Because trust me, this drama is nowhere near finished. We'll be right here breaking down every single twist and turn. See you on the next one.